Since constitutional carry went into effect in Oklahoma last year on November 1st, 2019, one of the questions that's been brought to my attention by small business owners more often than not, particularly those who operate nail salons and other businesses that have complimentary beverage licenses here in Oklahoma, as well as other establishments that are licensed to dispense alcohol as a non primary activity, has been what can I do to control guns and other weapons on my property, but primarily firearms? Well, let's talk about that. And, lucky for you, the law actually kind of takes all guesswork, a lot of the guesswork out of this because it makes your business a statutorily prohibited location. So there's not a whole lot you actually have to do in this regard. So first, let's look at what does the law actually say. The law actually says that it is a felony to possess any offensive weapon other than a handgun with a handgun license on the premises of any establishment licensed to dispense alcohol as a non-primary activity. So we're talking about restaurants, nail salons, movie theaters, um, barber shops, hotels, anything like that. We're also looking at Chuck E. Cheese. We're looking at ice cream parlors, JCrew in the mall, all kinds of businesses of that nature. So we're looking at beer and wine licenses. We're looking at complimentary beverage licenses. We're looking at catering and mixed beverage licenses. All these different types of licenses that are available in Oklahoma since the 2018 alcohol modernization that took place in our state. So there's a lot of different types of licenses out there, a lot of different types of establishments that this applies to. So we're not talking about business establishments where alcohol is the primary purpose. That is off the table. For those types of establishments, no weapons whatsoever are allowed. It's a felony across the board to take any type of weapon in there. Easy peasy. If anybody has anything in that type of establishment, call the police immediately. But for establishments where alcohol is not the primary purpose, here's what you need to do. So, first thing is we're going to establish whether or not the weapon is a handgun. That's the big thing. Handgun or not a handgun. So if it is, you need to establish whether or not the person has a license for it. So here's what you do. You strike up a conversation with the person. Well, first of all, you establish if they have a handgun or not. If they're open carrying, easy enough. If they're not, it's a matter of are they printing? Did they lean over? Was the handgun momentarily visible? You figure out that there was a gun at some point they are carrying, and then you strike up a conversation with them. You say, hey, so how long have you had a license for that? And they'll either tell you or they won't. And this day and age, now that we do have constitutional permitless carry, people are, they have the gift of gab. They are happy to say, you know what? I don't have a license. We've got constitutional carry. I'm just carrying because I can. And you know what? Once they say that, you've got them. You don't have to say anything to them at that point. By all means, don't make it abrupt and obvious what you're doing. Continue to talk to them whenever it is that you need to go on about your business and do whatever it is you do. Excuse yourself, go to the back, call the police, have them come and arrest them and take them away because they're guilty of not one but two felonies. The first one is the felony I just outlined. That is, they're looking at 2 years in prison and a $1,000 fine. And then they're also looking at an additional felony for having committed a felony with a weapon. And they're looking at another 2 to 10 years in prison for having done that. Now, if they do have a license and it is a handgun, well, in that case, it's perfectly legal for them to be there. In which case, that's when private property rights kick in. In that case, it's a trespassing situation. You have to ask them to leave. At which point, they can either agree to leave or they can refuse to leave. If they refuse to do so, well, that's when you let them know, well, I'm going to call the police and they're going to remove you. And it's up to them what they want to do at that point. So proceed accordingly. Like I said, if they refuse your request to depart, by all means, call the police, call 911 or call police dispatch. Police will come, they'll have their interaction with them, and they'll proceed from there. Now, if their firearm is anything other than a handgun, you don't need to go through these steps. You don't need to determine whether they have a license or not. It'll be pretty obvious if they have a rifle, a shotgun, a bazooka, a flamethrower, a sniper rifle. These things are pretty obvious. If it's one of those things, skip right to calling the police. They're committing a felony. Just do that. Call the police. Tell them, hey, there's somebody here. They have a shotgun. I have such and such license to dispense alcohol. I'd like them arrested for breaking the law. And the police, they should know at this point. And if not, cite the law to them. Have the police come on out and take care of it. So there's that. And again, the law states that it's any offensive weapon other than a handgun with a handgun license. And when I say any other weapon, that's literally what the law says. In the law, it does mention certain specific weapons, but it does actually have the language, any offensive weapon, any other offensive weapon. So that's very broad. It's very open-ended. You can use your imagination as to what that means. It could mean brass knuckles. It could mean nunchucks. It could mean a ninja star. It could mean a Chinese broadsword. It could mean all sorts of things. But, if you don't want it's not even a matter of if you want these things on your property or not. It's a felony whether you want them there or not. It's up to you whether or not you make the police aware of these things. But here's the thing. Any other patron in your establishment can make that call. It doesn't have to just be you because, again, aiding and abetting applies as well. So take that for what it's worth. So here we go. That is the scenario. And again, this is, a minefield that uh, firearms owners, weapons enthusiasts need to be aware of because of the width and breadth and different types of alcohol licenses that we have available in Oklahoma now again since the alcohol modernization of 2018. Particularly with thinking, we don't want to get trapped into thinking that it's only going to apply to restaurants that serve alcohol versus bars, if you will, where that's their primary purpose. That is so not the case. We have establishments, entertainment venues like Dave and Buster's or Main Event. We have Chuck E. Cheese locations that have alcohol. We have Capitol's Ice Cream in downtown Oklahoma City where that has alcohol. You can get a beer float. We have just today at Penn Square Mall in Oklahoma, I went to a JCrew clothing store in the mall that actually has a complimentary beverage license, and I spoke to the manager of the store, and they told me that their corporate management corporate headquarters handles their licensing for this for just one-off special events every once in a blue moon. So their local management doesn't even handle this. But every once in a while, maybe it might be 2 years from now, when they'll have a special event where it's a product rollout or some type of VIP event where they might serve mimosas, but in the meantime, they have the license in place. So at some point, maybe next week, if somebody happens to go into JCrew in Penn Square Mall and they take a firearm, they will be breaking the law. If they don't, if it's a handgun, if they don't have a handgun license, they will be committing a felony. Or if they go in there with literally any other offensive weapon. So these are the type of things that people need to be aware of. And again, this is a question that people have been asking me consistently since last November when this went into effect. A lot of business owners have been very concerned. And again, it's a justified concern. Not everyone is a gun rights enthusiast. Some people have concerns, and it's their private property. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, this is the answer to that question. So take that for what it's worth. And I personally think that it's unfortunate that the way the law is written as is, that it takes property, personal property or private property rights out of the question. It removes it from the table. It's no longer an issue of what does the property owner want. It makes your business a statutorily prohibited location, whether you want it to be or not. But with that being said, these are the legal steps to go through if that is the desired end result you want, to have someone removed from your establishment, if that's how you would like to play this out. So, with that being said, I'm Adrian Otap, a licensed handgun instructor here in the state of Oklahoma, and that is what the law says and how you would need to proceed if that is your desire.